Welcome, everybody, back to the Auto Lab. We're here to answer all your auto questions and tell you what's new in the auto world. If you like cars, you're going to like our show for sure. And today is no exception. We are going to see if the tax rebate party is over for electric vehicles. That should be interesting. We'll also visit with an amazing car collector and restorer. Russ Rader will let us know what legalized pot means for our roads. Not talking about potholes either. And Robert Sinclair from AAA will help us get where we're going, as he always does. And as usual, we've got our dream team of automotive experts with us, combined hundreds of years of experience wrenching on cars and figuring out what they're all about. We got David Goldsmith. Good morning, David.
Hey, good morning. Hundreds of years, huh? Are we that old, Ian?
You know, I was trying to figure it out. It could be almost 1,000 if you told everybody's.
Come on. And we got the gray hairs to prove it. Yeah.
Yeah. David runs Urban Classics, and he's got so many cars in his shop. He needs full-time employees to move them.
Yeah, we had. I think we were up to 103 cars yesterday. Yes,
103 cars.
People want to drive their cars in New York City.
All right,
they don't want to take the trains and the subways and the buses.
So everybody on Facebook, if you've got a car question, definitely put it in the chat because these guys will be able to answer it. And please friend us right here on Facebook as well. We've got Jerry and Johanna Pastore. How are you guys doing on the island today?
Good morning.
Good morning. We're very good. And how's everybody else?
We're doing fine.
We're all well.
Yeah.
So you guys, your shop is busy as well on the island.
So.
You know, now, wait, this is an important theme here. Honest mechanic.
Yeah.
Okay. Honest mechanic. So there you go. Jeff Allen from New York Transmission Group. Where are you, Jeff?
We're good. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for asking, Ian. We're in College Point underneath the Whitestone Bridge, trolling around as usual with 1955 Oldsmobiles this week.
Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that. We've got Mike Porcelli, who holds 61 ASE certifications, who is on the road a bit today, right, Mike?
That's right, Ian. I'm over here at our mobile Gold Shield Studios at the Automat Car Show here in Hicksville. So you may hear a little commotion running around here with the show. Okay. And anybody locally who's interested in cars should come out and visit us on Hazel Street in Hicksville.
It's still 2 p.m., right, Mike? It's still 2 p.m.?
Yeah, from now until 2 p.m. Yeah.
Right.
And what kind of, is it just a Cars and Coffee kind of thing? Is it a judge show? What is it?
This is their annual car show for Automat Restorations. They've been in business here for 65 years. Okay. And this is the 15th year of the car show. We have 300 cars, fun and games, all kinds of activities going on here.
Fun and games.
Fun and games.
It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
And of course, across the pond, our legendary automotive correspondent, Robert Erskine. Good morning, Robert.
Hi, a very good morning to you. And talking of honest mechanics, do you know what honest British mechanics say, Ian? When you go in to see them with a car problem, there's always a deep intake of breath followed by the whole lot's got to come off, sir.
The honest ones say buy American.
Yeah.
The honest ones say buy British.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with Robert. He's got some interesting takes on what's going on in Europe with the EV situation, and that could find its way over here, right, Robert?
Yeah, I predict that there's going to be some fundamental changes, which not everybody's going to feel terribly happy about, Ian. And what are we talking about? Well, a very nice Nordic country called Norway has announced that their government are seriously considering taxing all those green people who did the right thing, which was to get into an electric car. And they're going to be taxed because most electric cars that are sold in Norway are, of course, Teslas. And in fact, Norway appears to be Tesla's biggest market currently. Wow. So that's not a very fun thing, having gone and done the right thing and got out of your fossil fueled car and jumped into a beautiful EV from a place called America.
So no tax. So they can buy those cars and have no tax on them right now?
Well, at the current situation, that is what it is. And they've also been offered a very, very generous incentive. And we know that the word incentive means to encourage, motivate, to go and do something in a more positive way and encourage people to go and do things. So in answer to that, Dave, yes, they have been incentivized. They've been given very generous incentive packages to go and get into these cars. But some bright spark has jumped up, and I suspect that he's an accountant. So please don't feel any accountant who's listening that you're not a friendly kind of person. Some accountant has jumped up and said to the government, do you know something? We're paying these people who've got into these electric cars that you've encouraged them to do a rather generous package, and I think it's time to get it back.
Yeah.
So it's rather like the Sheriff of Nottingham that we had here, who didn't take anything from the rich, but took everything from the poor and gave it back to the sheriff.
It's
So
the
there seems
new-
to be a
yeah.
bit of this going on.
So in other words, the rich guys that can afford these Teslas because they're not cheap, they're given like they get tax rebates and they don't have to pay taxes. They're like they got all the money already, and
Yeah,
they're
they've got it all
beating the
there.
government out of a lot of cash.
Yeah, it is kind of an
Exactly.
interesting thing, you know, because if you think about it, you're right, David. Most of the people who are buying EVs are people of means.
Right.
So they, in a
Yeah.
way, they kind of don't need the tax break,
And
right?
the-
It's
And the government could kind of use the money to maybe do other things to encourage EVs, right? Like research and development and infrastructure, and how are you going to pay for it if nobody's paying taxes, right?
Well,
Sounds like it's fueled from the oil companies, you know, are probably
Oh,
pushing
you know
this.
what?
yeah, I was going
oh,
to, I was
Jeff
going
with
to
the
come on to that.
conspiracy. All
I
right.
don't know. I don't. Here's the thing. I think that government like the world's going in that direction for sure, and I think there's a lot of good reason to do it. Many good reasons, and in fact, like we're beginning to discover that in spite of the fact that we love the smell of gasoline, and I love the roar of the mufflers and the exhaust systems, the headers. These electric cars, they can be better. I mean, they're simpler. They don't break down as much.
Yeah,
There
in
are
some
fewer
ways they
moving
are.
parts.
But
But I think, the government's tried to give this good idea a kick in the butt in the right direction, but maybe enough is enough already.
you know what? I think Jeff is onto something, though. I was thinking about because what's Norway's #1 export?
Yeah, oil.
Yeah. All right.
Seriously.
But I read the article, Robert,
Yeah.
that you sent, and it said that it really came from the IMF, the International
Yeah.
Monetary Fund. The
I was going to-
economists there,
Yeah.
they're the ones that said, man, maybe they're paid off by the oil companies. Jeff
Well,
might be right.
there is,
You know, we
there
got to
is a-
stop talking like this because we can end up,
Yeah.
with cement galoshes.
There
a
is,
lot
of
of money.
course, a little bit of politics wrapped into this.
You
know,
really? No,
don't
you're
like
kidding me.
politics. Yeah, well,
kidding me.
Norway's
No.
Labour and other centre-left parties, as they like to call themselves, are all saying that they want to start imposing sales taxes on a portion of a car's cost that exceeds 600,000 crowns. So if we look at a comparison very quickly, and I'm just referring to my notes, the least expensive model of an electric Porsche costs 758,000 crowns. I mean, sounds colossal. While the top model starts at 1.7 million crowns. So, $1 equals 8.2823 Norwegian crowns. So if you've got a
Do we have to do
calculator,
the math right
work that
now?
out. Yeah, no.
That's my
So-
calculator.
Too early.
There
Too
is some
early.
politics going on here that the opposing parties are saying, look, enough with people who are successful and are fortunate enough to jump into these cars riding away. What about people who want to do the decent thing and can't afford to get into a
Right.
inverted
Mm.
commas proper electric car? Surely they should be getting incentives. So
Well, why
you've
not
gotta
just have
look-
the
you've gotta look
threshold?
through the lines.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they should just
threshold.
have the threshold. So, like, you get
Yeah.
the tax break, but as soon as you make over $8 billion a year, you don't get the tax break anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But there is one other little thing going on. If we pop over the pond to our part of the world, already here in the UK, buyers of electric cars, which are costing more than £35,000. So you're looking at SUVs. You could probably just get into a Tesla 3, not a terribly high spec one. They are also now being affected by a reduction in the UK government's incentive. So you were able to get about 5,000 English pounds contributed or knocked off the cost of your car. That's now being reduced, and that started on the 18th of March. It was slipped in very, very, very quietly. A lot of people woke up on that day, didn't know anything about it, and then a few days later, it was
What
on the front
hell?
pages.
Yeah. Well, Ian,
The rebates have been changing here too.
yeah,
I mean, I think that state by state, there's different things going on in the state, and then federal. I thought that they had just kind of overhauled the whole rebate program federally too.
yeah, I mean, and I think there's reason to do it. I mean, and generally speaking, like I'm the guy that would say, like, I think government should get involved in energy policy and like the direct and the automotive industry, but at the same time, it's like some things just don't make sense. These blanket tax breaks just it doesn't
Well,
hold
they're
water.
from another time in a way.
It's from another time,
It was
exactly.
designed to jumpstart things when they were really, it was really esoteric and nobody was doing it. And they need
Yeah.
to now slow it down a little bit, because what's going to happen to the grid if everybody, just keeps going at this rate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we could, I mean, let the cars, speak for themselves and let the industry prove that these cars, are worth buying, and they're going to get, just like laptops and PCs, they're going to get cheaper and cheaper. I mean, less expensive and less expensive, and, more affordable. And
more versatile too. I mean, look at that F-150 we had on a couple weeks ago. I mean, you can run your house off of that for a while.
It reminds me of the solar world a little bit, the solar power, everybody's calling you up and saying, hey, we'll put it on your roof for free, or minimum money out of pocket, and you get solar energy. I think it comes from that same strain, no?
Well,
yeah, but I think there's a difference between generating the power and using electric car versus an internal combustion car, because if generating the power, it doesn't hurt our grid. It doesn't, it literally, I think, I mean, I got to look at the latest numbers, but from everything that I've read, there's way more pollution from power plants than there are from cars. So the thing that I saw, there was a book called, it wasn't called Big Oil. It was called, you know what? I'm going to look it up and get it for you. But the one stat that stuck out for me was that if you took every single internal combustion engine in the world and got rid of it, just lawnmowers, cars, every single internal combustion engine, it wouldn't reduce greenhouse gases more than closing 3 coal-fired power plants.
Get out.
Yep.
I want to see. That's pretty much. I mean, I definitely understand that industrial pollution is kind of like the leader, right? And how we generate power is it. But that's really interesting. But wait a minute. So what happened so all the smog that disappeared from LA wasn't because California was so strict with their emissions, Ian?
Well, no, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, but it's, there's unique kind of weather situations in California that are causing that as well.
I see Joe shaking his head there. He's got an idea there. What are your thoughts, Joe?
It's called Big Coal, by the way. The book was called Big Coal.
Ah, Big Coal.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think the government. I think these cars are getting better and better, and kudos to the industry. I think that the government could, like, if we're talking about sound policy that reduces, like, diesel pollution is a problem, right? So, like, the government could be putting a lot of effort into getting fleets, getting these highways of electric, 16-wheelers, going, or 16-wheelers.
18-wheelers.
Yeah, 18-wheelers going down the the interstates. I mean, we could all kinds of government fleets, and you could do all kinds of things to reduce truck pollution, and but like for the whole idea of incentivizing wealthy people by giving them tax breaks. It just, I
Just
think
doesn't
they're
sound
right.
What were you going to say, Joe?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to say he's right. The 18-wheelers, but this tax thing is crazy. It is going to the wrong folks, as you were saying. It
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah, it's going to the wrong folks. Absolutely.
So,
So,
You know,
yeah, the stat here, I'm just looking really quick, and I'll find the one that we were talking about before, but it says here that nearly 40% of the carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere each year comes from coal-fired power plants. 40%.
wow. Robert, what were you going to say?
I'm just going to say a couple of things. One of the biggest polluters here on our side of the pond is actually shipping.
Huh.
All the huge
Diesels.
tankers and ships and cruise ships and container ships, they are the biggest polluters, big time.
Yep.
So there's an issue going on there. The other thing is, and here is the other thing, there's been a huge explosion in the sale of EV bikes, scooters, skateboards, and so on.
Yeah.
Now, this is fantastic. And we're going to be looking at the scooters and the powered skateboarders, as I call them, because there's a lot of confusion over laws, regulations. Can they be on the pavement? Should they be on the road? There's all kinds of weird British stuff, which we're going to have fun with. But
it's weird in Brooklyn here too.
I bet
Full body
you,
armor.
I bet you that the authorities or somebody in the IMF is going to say, hey, there are millions of these electric bikes and scooters. Let's start taxing those also.
Jeez.
That's where I see it's going to probably go.
Yeah.
Well,
That's why the
there's a way
Beatles
to
wrote the
tax
tax
it.
man.
Yeah,
If there's a way to tax, there will
They'll
be
find a way.
tax.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about
No,
it. There's,
Look, I don't think taxes are bad things. They just got to be taxed
no.
appropriately. I mean, we need infrastructure. We need things
Yeah.
to exist. Somebody's got to coordinate some of the stuff, but stupid taxes don't make any sense. Huh?
You know what? We're
Okay.
going to quote Robert.
Quote me on that one.
We're gonna quote Robert on-
Taxes don't make
I'm
any
running
sense.
for governor.
We'll put that
Well,
on your
thank you,
tombstone,
Robert.
David.
Great.
Thank you, Robert, again for
My pleasure.
a wonderful report from across the pond. I forgot to play your theme song at the beginning, so
I
you get
forgive
it at
you.
the end.
Right.
Okay, here we go. All right, moving along with the show. I know that Mike has got a really special guest for us this week, who is just a fantastic restorer. I've seen some of the cars, and we'll put some up in just a second for you to look at. Please friend us here on Facebook and give us a question or comment in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. So what's going on, Mike?
That's right, Ian. We have a very special guest today. Chief Warrant Officer, retired Joe Worm, spent 30 years in the Army, retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 5, the highest ranking warrant officer in the Army. But he spent 30 years keeping the Army running, repairing their vehicles, training people to repair their vehicles. And he's a fabulous restorer. He's got a great collection himself of 57 Chevys. And they're probably, those photos I sent you are probably some of the most beautiful 57s I've ever seen. Joe,
Is it
Good
this,
morning, Joe.
Morning.
yeah, I've got some
Whoa.
pictures up
Look at
now.
that. Whoa.
those are some really beautiful cars.
Spectacular.
Yep.
And
Wow.
I understand Joe did almost all the work on these cars himself.
Wow.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
welcome, Joe. Welcome to the Auto Lab.
Yes.
Oh, I
Thank
love
you.
the
Appreciate it,
station
yeah.
wagons.
Joe,
Yeah,
tell
that-
us,
that-
how did you get
that's what-
started in this business?
Well, 5 years old, my dad and his friend Chocolate George took me into a junkyard because I was so small I can get in there and get under dashes, and kept cutting wires out from under there so we can get the copper and stuff. And then I just continued from there, stripping cars. My dad loved racing and stuff, so I was always trying to help him tear things apart, making it difficult to get put back together. And from there, I just got a couple cars. I got a 55 Olds first, started out with that, was running around, driving that around. My first car obviously was an Edsel. It didn't last long because it kept breaking on me, and it, I guess, lived up to its day, fix, repair daily. But then I got that Oldsmobile, and it was a good car, and turned out to be a class project when I went to college here with the automotive engineering stuff, technology, and we rebuilt the engine, a nice 324 and a 4-speed hydromatic transmission. And We had to learn that high drive, even on a gauge, it didn't have a park, but we figured out after rebuilding it, that park was actually in reverse mode when you turn the car off. And it just had a love for cars. I worked in junkyards for years, and then in the military, fixing things all the time. It's just in my blood. You know, the people know me, say I bleed maintenance. So pretty good. Yeah.
So when you enlisted, was it your intention to go into vehicle maintenance?
Yeah, yes, it was. Actually, you do the pre-test, and that's what I scored the highest in, and that was my passion already at the time. I said, that looks like that's for me. And
Wow.
And 50 years later, I'm still tinkering with the stuff and loving it. I'm looking for getting another vehicle to help try to, add to my 57 collection. Hopefully I find me a Cameo one day. And that's my dream, is to have one of each 57 before my time comes. That'd be my collection out there. So I'm pretty well on my way with that.
And what is it about the 57s that you kind of keyed in on and you locked in on?
Well, 57 was the car my dad drove around when we were little kids and everything. So we all rode back in a 57 two-door four-door wagon, and he drove it. Then my brother got it for school, and he drove it for a while. And then I got it when I started school for a little bit. By then it had about 250,000+ miles on it.
Wow.
Used to have to pull to the station and say fill up with oil and check the gas kind of thing.
Yeah.
An iconic year for sure. An iconic year.
Yeah, so it just grew on me. So after that, every time I saw one, if one of these days I'm gonna have to get my own. And of course, it took quite a few years and finally got it in 19. I think it was 1975, 78. It was in that time frame I started picking up on the 57s.
Was that the Corvette that you got first?
No. The first car I got was a 57 convertible. I got it from a guy. He painted it Sierra Gold. It was the wrong color and stuff. I drove it for quite a few years, and then I got deployed with the Army. I kept getting deployed, so I just put it in storage at my mom's. And after a bunch of years, about 20 years later, I got the car back out of storage and restored it and put it back to the right color, Matador red. And that took me about almost 3.5, 4 years to get that one done. And then haven't driven it much since then, because I did all this work, put all this money. I want to go show it to all these different shows and see how it stands up against all these other guys that been doing this stuff for years. See how high rates on. It took me a while to get things right in some different ways, but I learned. Then I went to Classic Chevy, became a judge for 57 Chevys. So they're like rated number 2 or 3 judge in the country on 57 Chevys
Wow.
with Classic Chevy. So again, it's like 57s are there, and I get phone calls all the time. Like, what bolt goes here? What's happens with this? And how do you take and fix this? That kind of stuff. You know how it goes. You guys are into the business.
The detail is amazing what you guys go through. I've seen it. It's unmatched as far as I'm concerned.
So Joe, speaking of judging, tell us about your Nomad that got a perfect score.
That Nomad, that's an amazing car. I got that car from a guy in San Diego. He had tore the car apart in 1970. And the body was in a barn. The frame and engine and transmission were in a bedroom, which he had actually built up around it. And so it took a lot to get that frame and stuff out of there. And he had all the fenders and hoods and stuff hanging in the house, around the house, like art in the house. And he married a gal from Great Britain, and she said, something's got to give her. I can't have an engine in my kitchen. And so I got the car, and then I stripped it back down again because he painted it black. I stripped it all down and zero rust. The first car I ever had, it had no rust on it. And every panel on that car had a little 3-digit number that I'd never seen on any of the other cars I worked on. So you could tell that it was that's how it was assembled. So it was a rust-free car, and put it together. 3 years after putting it together, I went on a circuit with it. I said, all right, I'm going to take it out and see how I do with judging. So first thing I did, I went to pick a friend up in Indiana. We went to a show there. And it got best of show at the mom and pop show. Then from there, we went down to Arkansas to Classic Chevy, which was having a concourse show down there, a judging show for points, and the 1,000-point judging system. And my car got 1,000 points out of 1,000 points, which was awesome.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Wow.
And then from there, I went to Roanoke, Virginia, to an all Nomad show. And I won best paint, best interior, best overall 5, 6, or 7 Nomad in the country for that one. And from there, this is all one road trip. Went to Hershey with AACA, and I got my junior awards. First time I showed it at Hershey, I got my junior award. And next thing I know, there's a couple of people walking around the car, looking at the car. And the guy walks away and said, well, their car has just been nominated for a national award. you know, which is surprised me. What's that? You know, it wasn't familiar because that was just my first experience with AACA. So there about 3,000 or 4,000 cars get looked at during the year, and then we get down to about 400 in November, and then in December they choose the top 44, 46 cars, and then they announced who won those, and I was one of the selectees for that, and I had to go up and wear a suit up in Philadelphia to pick up my award, which I ended up getting a Baumgartner Award. A lot of people have said, I was told you had to wear a tux. I didn't have a tux, so I ended up wearing just a regular suit and I got away with it, but that was pretty cool. So that's a really nice car. It's one of the best cars I got in my collection. It's made the magazine like 3 different times, the centerfold.
Wow.
Joe, when you were building that car, were you thinking about the awards? You weren't thinking about it.
No, I was thinking about, just getting me a real nice car. I mean, a Nomad is one of the elite 57s in my mind because it just got so much beauty to them. All the extras and everything I have on that. They're just going through the detail. One of the toughest things I had was I was going to get the stainless done by somebody else, and the price that came back was astronomical. I said, "Now I think I'm going to do this myself." So I went and got me a buffing machine and the tools, and I had the guy that was doing stainless show me a little bit how to knock out the dents and stuff. And so I worked about 400 hours taking all the dents and polishing that stainless in that car, and then putting it back together. And like the windshield, I put it by myself. That was a challenge. Those kinds of things. But that was the passion of love. And I said, I'm going to do this all myself as much as I can, other than the paint. I did everything.
No, I got a few moldings that I could send you.
I just put a windshield in my Porsche 914. It is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Talk about commitment to excellence, Joe. What a great example.
So, I mean,
Congratulations.
is there a lot of transfer of knowledge of fixing tanks and fixing Nomads? What are the similarities or the differences?
Well, in the old APCs actually had a small block Chevy in them.
Really?
So yeah. Yeah.
And Joe, this is the
283
one
punched
here.
out to a 301.
This is the Nomad you're talking about. Is this one the silver?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can see the one article up there on the right there where I got 4 pages of talked about the car, how I picked it up, like I mentioned to you. And San Diego's got the whole story in there. Well, I dropped my wife. We were on vacation. And we were with the couples up in Napa Valley. And I got the phone call, come get the car. And I told my wife, sorry, baby, I'm leaving the vacation to go get this car. I got you a first class ticket home. So forgive me, will you?
Well, that's taking care of business.
When did she start talking with you again? How long?
As soon as I bought her some jewelry.
Oh, okay, well,
When did you have to buy her the Corvette?
I got the Corvette 3 years ago up in Naples, New York. And again, that car, I got the history from that car from 1960 to forward. I got everybody that owned that car, the copies of the titles, all the documentation, what they did to the car and everything. And actually a doctor in the 80s painted it red. And I got the car from this guy up there, Gary Gimmon, and he did a lot of work on it the 40 years that he had the car. And he's up in his upper 80s. I think he's turned 90 this year. And he just wanted somebody that was going to have the passion for the car like he did. He didn't want to give it to one of his kids because they felt they would just modify it or destroy it from what he thought the original car should be. So we talked for a while, and he said, no, you seem like the right guy to me. So I bought it from him and brought it home, and it took a couple things off. But I said, well, it needs a little work here and there. So, when you start stripping the car, you start finding different things. And I realized that the car was actually Cascade Green. And I did have a letter from 1960 that it was Cascade Green. I said, well, I'm a purist, so I've got to put this car back. And but most of the work was done in last year. I've actually finished this car in about 10 months, and I actually showed it in 2020 after I tore it apart. You can see it went down to the frame and everything. I rebuilt the engine myself, transmission, rear end, all that stuff there is all done. And that they had County Corvette place paint the body, and prep it up, paint it, then I reassembled it, and they had to say the same thing as what you're saying is with attention to detail. You really did a lot of work this car yourself, putting it together. And that Corvettes are a challenge after they do the painting on that day. They put that gel coat on there, then all of a sudden nothing fits anymore. You're out there with a razor blade trying to cut all the holes to make everything fit. I found that was a lot tougher than the metal car. When you run across that stuff, that took a lot of hours and a lot of patience because you didn't want to scratch that new paint.
What color was she when you bought her?
It was red. It was red. He actually
red.
got posters of the guy when he was in Colorado with his wife up there playing his banjo and stuff in a field. So I still got all the old red interior and everything that came out of it that they put in at that time. It was actually turned into a race car in 1960, and they took the fuel injection out, put 2.4 motor in it, and raced it for a while. Frenched the headlights, and the guy in '63 decided he wanted to put it back to original, and they started back to original and slow process, and now it is back there, obviously 100% original. As you guys know, restored cars are much better than what they were new.
Oh,
Yeah.
We definitely over restore
And
things.
so he kept the engine, so
Yep.
it's still matching numbers.
Hey
Yeah,
guys,
matching
I'm,
numbers.
Wow.
Yep. And I actually even got the other engine he had in it. They had the 2.4 motor that they put in it to race with. I actually got that motor with the car too, and I got it on a stand in my garage just as a display piece.
these
Nice.
older vehicles, I have to tell you, the history that's involved. I own a '69 Z28 that was also went from original to race, and now we're putting it back to an all original car. And the detail and history is just it's fascinating. It really is. I
Yeah, cars
get
have a
the
story.
passion. Yeah.
You know, with my 914, when I got it, my wife was kind of going over the car, and I would have never found this. So credit to my wife. She reaches inside the visor, and there's a little pocket there. It's not like a pocket where it had a flap where you could tell it was a pocket. It was almost like a little slash in it. And she reaches her hand in and pulls out a piece of paper, and it's like an insurance card from 1974 when the car was brand new. So I
Wow.
had the guy's name, I had his
Mm, mm,
address. I
Mm.
went online and I went and did the
You found them.
I found the guy and spoke with him and got some of the history of the car. But so many of these things, if you don't have those little connections, they just get lost to time. So
Yeah.
the idea that Joe was able to kind of track the lineage of these cars,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the
that's what's
stories are
fascinating.
always just amazing with them. And I also learned that I can never try to get anything over on my wife, because if she can find it, I mean, that's just
Oh,
This is
you're
what we're
just
gonna
learning
lose.
that? How
You know
many
what?
years are you?
yeah, I better
Just
make sure I
learning
don't have any little receipt that I might like have in my wallet or something.
She's gonna
She'll
find it.
find it. She'll find
Yeah.
the little piece of paper in the
I
thing.
think that's what we're going to lose, though. We're going to lose what you're talking about, the essence of that with these electric vehicles. I don't
Oh,
see.
come on.
Well,
come
no,
on.
but a
they'll
friend of
still-
mine says, and this is and this is meant in the literal sense of the word. He loves Teslas, but I thought it was interesting that he described me. He said I love the electric cars and I love Teslas, and I would consider buying one, but they're soulless.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Mm.
you know what? That's a really accurate kind of way to look at them. I think because they're all identical, basically.
They all look
Right.
exactly the
Yeah.
same. Yes.
There's
So-
and they function really well, but there's a soul that's missing from them.
it was a 100-year-old Baker or Detroit Electric soulless also.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I don't think it's because it's electric. I think it's just because of the way we look at cars today. It's because of, and you guys have heard me say this, 100 times, like when aerodynamics and fuel economy started to become the most driving, if you will,
Mhm.
Yeah.
force in car design. A lot of the design went out the window because air flows the same regardless of what kind of car you're driving. So the similarities in the way cars look, the unique design elements went by the wayside in favor of fuel economy.
Yeah,
and
that's why
aerodynamics.
today we're talking about the only design frontier left is the interior.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have to tell you though, this
and-
55 Oldsmobile 88 that we got in this week, every piece on this car is like a piece of art. The emblems on it's like a Super 88. Like there was so much detail paid and attention to these
Yeah,
older
and weight
vehicles
too.
that
They didn't care how much things
Oh, yeah.
weighed.
Oh,
So you
weight.
could have,
Yeah.
extra chrome or extra. What did you want to say, Joanna?
Yeah, and years ago, you guys used to name the cars. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody naming a car recently.
Oh, you mean just like you're like, well,
Just
here's
this
Betty.
is-
You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That
yeah.
speaks to the soulless nature, I think.
Yep.
maybe.
I don't know.
Yes.
I think part of the problem now is that where the soul went is that like the industry still, or these cars are still relatively
young.
I think that, as like Tesla is very proprietary about their information, but already the aftermarket is starting to like move in.
Oh,
And I
is it
think
really?
people will start customizing these things. And I think people will start programming. I mean, it'll be a whole different thing. It'll be the programs in them, the interiors, the whatever. I mean, it'll be different. it won't be
Speaking-
our.
Well, don't
Speaking
get me
about
wrong. I would love it. I'm looking at a Model 3. The only thing
Yeah.
that's holding me back is having the right power in my garage, which is a whole,
Yeah,
separate
Be-
situation. But
Speaking about things being different, Joe, tell us about all the thousands of people you've trained to repair vehicles that we can now hopefully hire.
Yeah, that is a little bit of truth that I have trained some guys in the military for diagnostics and doing some things out there instead of troubleshooting through replacement, how to properly diagnose stuff. But I found out once I got them that extra skill set and you're able to do all that, people like you were buying them away from the Army, hired them out, get out, and I'll give you this extra money. Since you got this skill, you can save me money to fix things versus spending money replacing parts.
So David,
Yeah.
now that
Oh.
you're connected with Joe, maybe he can send you some text.
Oh man, Joe, I've got your number, man. I have your email. No, it's very, and I got to say that, guys and gals coming out of the military. I had my vaccine, a couple of months ago, and it was being run. There was Army medics there, and I met a gal who was and I was talking to her, and she's I had my work shirt on, and she said, "Oh, you got a shop?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's a mechanic in the Army, and I said, "Please call me when you get out, because the skill set that they get in the military is absolutely incredible, and the discipline, the approach to the job, and we're eager to hire veterans for sure." And
Joe,
thank
tell
you,
us what
Joe.
the technical training is like in the military today.
It's pretty intense. The technical training for the most part in the schoolhouse, you go through anywhere from 16 weeks to a year worth of training and stuff, and then it's always on the job. It's never ending for sure. But like he said, hiring a guys out of the military, there's no doubt that. But I found that because I worked at Firestone for a while, and I could not find anybody that would care about it's not my stuff, but you get the guys from the military, their work ethic and everything they got coming out with the skills and everything, but night and day difference. It's really awesome to
Absolutely.
pick up on it and
Tell
hire
us
some of
about
those-
tell us about some
Right.
of the stuff that you've worked on over the years.
Well, you name it. I went to the generators in the Army. They got the M16s, weapons, tanks. I was a tank turret repairman for quite a while, and but all the trucks and stuff. We went from the old gasser to Deuce up to the diesel engines. So I got the whole gamut of the different kinds of engines and transmissions, and now the modern technologies like you're talking out there. Everything is going electronic, so you really got to be on top of your game and stuff, and be able to diagnose things. Otherwise, you can replace because all the modules is like your cars on those trucks out there. People, you could be out changing a $75,000 engine when there's only a $5 module bad because you don't have proper diagnostic capability or don't know what you're doing, and it's just a shame. And that's what we're kind of doing out now, running around the Army with my skills and the other guys I have. We're going out into units and training the mechanics in those units. Because we actually can see everything on what we call a readiness report, what's broken and what's got the low for hanging fruit, as I call it. They got the high dollar engines and things that are being ordered. So we fly out and we talk to these guys and can we help you with showing you how to diagnose this thing and find out if it really does need an engine. So even the guys that are supposed to be the experts, a lot of the experts out there, they're actually going, some of the guys I have, I call them CBM techs out there. We train these guys, we bring them back here and train them up real well. And they're actually at different installations going down and helping those guys diagnose and fix things versus replacing those major assemblies, which is saving the military about $100 million a year plus.
Only.
During
our guy.
during the pandemic, the public learned that we mechanics are essential workers, but the military is always known it doesn't move without equipment working, and we keep it working, right?
That is correct. It's a thankless job for the Army because you're not the tank driver, you're not the Apache pilot going out and doing all the Army stuff. You're the guy behind the scenes doing all the repairs, keeping those guys in business. And it's definitely a thankless job. And of course, one of my missions obviously is as the honorary regimental warrant of the Corps. When I get a chance, I go to units like in Kuwait and stuff and go to these places and grab them mechanics, pull them out from their tank and bring them a coin or something that I've had made up for maintenance. And I would say, hey, you pull them out. First thing I said, what did I do wrong now? You did do nothing wrong. I'm here from the States to thank you for what you're doing.
So when
It's
you say when you say it's a thankless job, that's not a very good recruiting pitch. We've
No,
had
it's not, but we do get them in there and stuff. That's why you got to be able to talk to them yourself. But they're seeing all the credit and stuff, everything going on out there, with all the wars that are won and battles won and stuff like that are going to mainly to those guys that are doing the fighting and stuff. But so people like me and other leaders have got to make sure that those guys and gals out there doing this great job for the United States in the Army are getting recognized for all that they're doing and stuff, and it's an appreciation.
So we've
It's a
had
great
several
point, Joe.
Army and
It's a
Marine
great
Corps
point.
recruiters on talking about training opportunities in the military. So here's your chance to be a recruiter and tell everybody the benefits of getting technical training in the military and all the great jobs that they can have when they get out.
Yeah, one of the things we're doing now, a lot of people don't realize when we are training these guys up, going through all this training we're talking about, as you know, you got all these ASC certifications. We're actually getting them ASC certifications along with the training when it relates to with those type of things out there with the brakes and the engines and whatnot. So they're get a lot of certifications. There's a benefit to you get this training, you do this job good and everything. You pretty much guaranteed you're going to get something on the outside. You can relate to it, as opposed to those guys that are actually shooting the weapons or the helicopter pilot. You could be a pilot, but you're a fighter. You're not gonna. It's not easy to find a job out there once you get out of the military for a killer, if you will, or something like that. But it is easy if you got a skill set like a mechanic.
Sure.
That's a
Well,
great
that's
point.
a really great point. And
Have
what
to follow
about
Great point.
electric? Is the Army going into electric at all?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of electric stuff in there. Actually, we're getting quite a bit of, like the drones and the different things where you got no operators in the vehicle. You actually game or something like that. So you sit back, and there is a lot of electrical stuff going on there. We are getting some things into the electric phase. We're slowly getting that. We're years away from it, but we're actually testing it, working with it, and going that direction also in a lot of ways.
I know you work at the Proving Ground. You're working on a lot of future stuff, I imagine. Can you tell
Now,
us?
I'm not personally, but the Proving Ground, I get involved with testing, and when they get something out,
If it doesn't work, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you reverse engineering UFOs as well?
Haven't got that far.
Hey, I saw
the
you.
answer is no comment.
Joe reverses anything on a 57 Chevy, right?
Yep. Or even that 55Os that you guys working on there. Actually, I think I got the original service manual for that car still.
I didn't even
Yeah,
realize
Super
when you
88.
said, Joey, I didn't even realize when you said that park was in reverse, and I've been in the transmission business for 40 years. So I get in the car and it's in neutral and the emergency brake is on and the customer says, drive is in the exact opposite position.
Right,
Then and
You
I
got
didn't
super
realize you
low.
just said, so
Yeah,
park is in
super low.
reverse.
Yeah, when you put it in reverse and you turn off the engine, the hydraulic pressure releases, and it brings a dog over and locks into a drum like a regular park would do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
See,
See, learn something every day.
That's correct.
In the
And
distance learning classroom there.
That's
Here we are.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Thank you for that
amazing.
information, Joe.
Well, Joe, we
I
really
would-
appreciate you being on and sharing thank you for your service too, and
Yes.
sharing all of your
Absolutely.
amazing experience. And so if people are interested in joining your team and signing up or whatever, how do they go about doing that?
We have folks out there. There's a lot of recruiting offices out there, but we do have teams of people like myself for going out to and try to recruit warrant officers. And then, of course, you got to get in there and go through the ranks and enlist a little bit first, and then you get there. And unless you've got a special skill like a pilot or something like that, you go right in as a warrant officer. But we do have we go to the mentorship. We go to a lot of schools, high schools and stuff. We're going to get ready to graduate. Either you're going to go to college, maybe, or here's an option for you to go into service, and we can get you help you get a degree in the service where you don't have to pay for it. It's paid for by the military, and that's a big drive for a lot of folks. So they can, because where we're getting money to get our college education. Well, to go to the military, you can do the job there, learn a trade, plus get your college out of the way.
Well, that's great.
So Joe, welcome home. And I hope your collection, I can get to see it someday.
And I'm definitely going to figure out a way to find you, Joe, and maybe you can connect me with some of your prize veterans who are leaving the service and want to join it back into the private sector, because we are desperate for great train tech like the
Here,
one-
here.
like
I
the,
second
I
that
get a lot
notion.
of I get a lot of resumes from those guys. Say, help me out. Tell me where I should go next
Oh.
and stuff. But I
Oh.
got to add to if I got time, I got to add to going to all these car shows is with classic Chevy and everything, and going like to the James Dean run and stuff. I had a big goal in my mind when I retired, and I decided I had to get a memorial out there for all the fallen ordnance soldiers, since we didn't have a memorial in the Army for them. And actually, these car guys, I went to into Gas City, Indiana, took my sedan delivery out there, and because they saw me down the Pentagon with it down in Prateville for a Wounded Warrior ceremony. I brought it out there, raised, lowered the flag to half mast, and told them I was trying to raise money for a memorial and stuff. And I thought I was going to be able to do it quickly for a 200th anniversary that we were celebrating out there with the Ordnance Corps. And boy, that didn't happen. I mean, that was so wrong that I get money quick for that memorial. You'd think that kind of cause you get it pretty easily. Took me 10 years. I had dark brown hair when I started that. Just 3 weeks ago, I finally got that
Yeah,
memorial put in
May
place. on a
21st,
full leaf.
right?
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell
congratulations.
us real quickly about the memorial and about the Ordnance Corps.
The Ordnance Corps basically, you think ordnance is, you think it's bombs and all that stuff, but actually ordnance is all maintenance for the Army, ground maintenance and things like that. We got EOD, the Explosive Ordnance Detachment, the guys that go out there in the battlefield and get all this unexploded ordnance and make it safe for the soldiers to go by it by picking this stuff up or exploding in place, making it safe for everybody. And then we got munitions, and then explosive safety. That's the four components of Ordnance Corps. Maintenance being the biggest, where we Ordnance has over 100,000 soldiers out there, and that specific part of the competency for the overall Ordnance Corps, which is larger than the rest put together. And then the memorial, like I said, we were one of the few corps in the Army that did not have a memorial for its fallen soldiers, and I think that was just so wrong that you just can't explain it from coming from a soldier, seeing that those guys that paid the ultimate sacrifice don't have something to remember them by, and everybody else does. The closest thing we had was EOD had one down in Eglin in Florida, but that was only, like I said, a small piece of ordnance. So, like I said, I took it on myself, and like I was up there in Gas City, and I got this 57 Chevy you saw with all the my history on there, with Afghanistan on one side, Iraq airbrush on the other side, the War Eagle on the tailgate. The inside got all the leather panels in the back from actually photos from Vietnam, tool 3-dimensional leather, and I have a display box with all the dog tags from all the ordnance soldiers since 9/11 that I put outside the car. And the guy took a tree stump with a chainsaw, cut a soldier, cut what we call dead soldier. You can actually see it laying on the floor back there. But but I set that up there in Gas City, and the guy had running the show, and there's about 3,000 cars at this show at the Ducktail Run there. And we set up the display, and I opened this book up. It talked about all those dog tags, and the guy jumped back. See, you just did. You know who that soldier is? That's the only soldier from this town that was killed in action during the war on terrorism.
Wow.
And oh, by the way, Joe, not more than 53 from us right here over here. There's a big rock. There's a memorial right there for that soldier. I got chills. My hair raised up a little bit.
Wow.
I couldn't think, because you got a better chance of winning the lottery than that. And I got to meet his family and stuff, and it was just great. His mother, father, wife, kids. And I told him, I said, I'm the honorary regimental warrant. I just got notified another soldier was killed, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to add another photo and stuff in this book I got. Do you want me to change another photo here? And I said, Bradley King, I said, I knew your son. I actually trained him for a little bit, and he wouldn't have done anything different but survive and continue on with what he was doing, taking care of making America safe. And they looked at me and said, nope, we have no complaints at all, except. And I said, except what? And his dad said, well, he was killed, as you know, 3 years ago, and we've been trying to get his headstone fixed in the cemetery. It's wrong for the last 3 years, and everybody keeps pushing us away. And I said, who you been talking to, kind of stuff. And I finally got a hold of this colonel that we're talking to, and I actually had to go see him because he was getting belligerent with me on the phone too, to go see him. And I said, I know you outranked me and all that stuff, sir, but we got some unfinished business here. We got a soldier's headstone. Is that correct? Many people don't know, if you're killed in action, you're entitled to the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart being on your headstone. Yeah. And it wasn't there. So I had to go all the way up to the Chief of Staff of the Army, another warrant officer friend of mine, W5 up there, and find out. We tracked it down. The bottom line was the unit was at fault because they never put his records where he was killed in action in his file. So when we made a headstone for him, as he's entitled to, they didn't put that other stuff on it.
Did Did you bring your
I got
5
that.
pound? Did you bring your 5 pound sledgehammer to out with the colonel?
The BFH.
Well, I pretty much did. And he started apologizing to me. He said, don't apologize to me, apologize to that family. You know, that family is when you should be apologizing to. And I was actually able to get that new headstone out there and had come up with another $500 to get it replaced. But it was January. It was too cold. You couldn't pull the headstone out until, you know, a couple months later when it thawed out a little bit. But we finally got that done. And the other one was, again, at the car show. I was down there in Nashville. They actually put my sedan delivery inside the lobby of the hotel with another car or two to display what I had there. And this couple was looking through my book and they backed up. Holy cow, look at it. That's our son. I want to thank you for keeping our son's memory alive.
Wow.
Again, showing the importance of having a memorial and something like that, because I think that I don't know whether it's just Americans or if it's human nature in general, but we forget way too easy. So if we don't have people out there with things like me with the car, or they put memorials out there to help people remember and stuff, and even all the guys that are out there wandering the streets right now that are, you know, out of the service and stuff, you got to be able to go out and do something to help those guys and keep what they did alive and their faith in what they did was right.
Joe, that tombstone story is just more proof that it takes a mechanic to fix things.
Joey,
It
did you
really
figure
does.
out how to fit more than 24 hours into a day? Because it sounds to me like, you know, you got like 40 hours a day. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
to
it
me.
sounds like he's.
And most people that know me said they like to be able to bottle some of my blood or something, because I actually get up at 4 o'clock, now later at 4 o'clock every day, and I go to bed around midnight. And then I do have to say, you got so much energy. We can't believe that you're doing all this.
Wow.
And like my other car friends that know me said, where do you find time to fix these cars, do this work on the cars and stuff? And it's just a love for the car, you know?
Yeah.
Mike said
I
that
know.
you
It
were a
shows.
true car guy, because I had never heard of you, and it's been a pleasure to listen to your stories,
Yeah,
and you're
it's so great. that
amazing
you're-
human
you're
being.
welcome
Thank you
to
so
come
much
back
for all your service.
anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I
Joe.
appreciate it. And
Yeah.
thanks
So
for having me.
on.
we're going to take
Great.
a little break, and we're going to hear about something that's also really important for veterans. Of course, it's the Gold Shield. Thank you so much, Joe. We'll be back right after this.
Gold Shield is an organization of businesses, both large and small, that have pledged to putting an end to the national disgrace, which is veteran suicide, and also to expedite research and treatments for various cancers. When you choose to shop Gold Shield, you'll be making a direct impact in the lives of veterans and their families, as well as people who suffer from cancer. Whether it's at your grocer, your barber, your insurance professional, your internet provider, gas station, or even your favorite coffee shop, you can be sure that every veteran and cancer victim in their darkest hour will be well cared for. Please shop Gold Shield and be assured that funds will go towards those who need it the most. We bury our loved ones every day, and we can't wait any longer, so please shop Gold Shield, The Simple Truth, which supports cutting-edge treatment for veteran suicide prevention and expediting cancer research.
Such a worthy cause, right?
Yep.
Well, welcome back to Auto Lab, where we're answering any of your questions that you got about cars and meeting some amazing car people as well. Please friend us or like us here on Facebook, and put any questions that you might have in the chat for our dream team, which includes Jerry and Joanna Pastor, and Jeff Allen from New York Transmission Group, David Goldsmith from Urban Classics, and Mike Porcelli, holder of 61 ASC certifications. Speaking of transmissions, Jeff, are you ready to go with a transmission tip, or are you?
Has he
must be working
disappeared
on a
off the scene?
He must have left. So
He's got one under the kitchen table there.
Yeah, we'll get back to Jeff's transmission tip in a little bit. But and Joe, thank you for staying. You're absolutely welcome to stay for the rest of the show. I'm sure with all the restoration that you've done, you could answer quite a few questions yourself.
You know, when Joe was talking about the car where the parts were all over they built the house around the car. I was thinking about Ivan Dutton. Remember we did that show with him, and he said when he was 3 years old, he was under the kitchen table pulling an engine apart. Those
Yes,
those
that's right.
Brits, those Brits that keep their engines under their kitchen tables.
Perfectly
Jeff-
normal.
Jeff-
I'm sitting here with a Triumph straight six engine under my feet.
Under your,
Yeah.
You're gonna have
guys.
to take some pictures to that, Robert, for
Yeah,
us.
definitely.
Put it online.
hey, we
Hey,
got
Jeff.
Jeff.
Jeff is back. Jeff, are you ready with a transmission tip for us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's hear it.
Any music today?
No.
You missed the music.
Oh,
I'll
sorry
play it
about
again
missed
that.
for
the
you.
music.
Sorry about
Yeah.
that, guy.
Hold
So
on a
I was
second.
talking to David
Here we
this
go.
week, and the tip is, you know, when your car gets to my shop, it's not there for maintenance. You know, we run a transmission and driveline shop. You know, we remanufacture transmissions, and the vehicles that are coming in, there's a trend. Vehicles that are coming into the shop are 18s, 19s, 17s, 18s, and 19s. We're talking about vehicles that are 3 or 4 years old with 50 to 70,000 miles on them that have transmission problems, serious transmission problems that are costing $5, $6, and $7,000 to repair. Now, listen, I'm not complaining, you know, on the business end of it, it's great for us.
You're
But this
honest.
leads
You're
me
being
to,
honest.
yeah, this leads me to believe that if you bought a car anywhere from 2015 and newer, it is critical that you're very aggressive with the maintenance end of that vehicle. A lot of people get in their cars every day, they start them up, they go, they don't think about it. The reality is that if you own a vehicle that's 15 or newer and you're not paying attention to the maintenance, you're looking for some big trouble. And people don't realize, and this is the summer now, they're coming into the summer months, that you know the cooling system in your car controls not only your engine but your transmission. Your transmission is directly connected to the cooling system, and if you don't maintenance that system, antifreeze, thermostats, hoses, belts, everything related to that cooling system, and be on top of that, you're going to be in for a huge repair bill. I mean, this guy with a 2018 Express van with an 8L90 8-speed automatic that has the computer inside the transmission. You know, they don't put them outside anymore. Now the computer's inside the transmission. Is spending $5,500 to fix this van that he uses to run.
Amazing.
He
Amazing.
delivers furniture with this thing.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe the reality of the fact that he needs a transmission. 2019, 2-year-old. Normally in our industry, you know, the norm would be you'd see a vehicle 10 years, 12 years old, 110, 150,000 miles on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're talking just out of warranty at 60K.
What do you think that is? I mean, is it inferior parts or what
I
is
think
it?
it's the advanced technology. Every time you make something a little bit more technical, a little bit another speed, add another speed, 8L90s. Now they're putting out vehicles with 10-speed automatics. They're just, it's so much more of a complicated system. It doesn't last as long.
If I may,
Yes.
just to add in on that, you know, Ian, you asked like, why do you think this is happening? And I think
Yeah.
a lot of it has to, I mean, Jeff, you're right on, you're spot on. It's that the vehicles are getting more complex, not just the transmissions, but so are the engines. I don't know about the rest of you guys that have shops, but you know, Jerry and Johanna, you probably seen the same things. We're seeing engine issues on these vehicles that have 60,000 miles, like big major engine lifter issues at, you know, 60,000 miles right out of warranty. And I think the reason why they're becoming so complex is that they're chasing, and I'm not against public policy that reduces pollution. They're trying to reduce pollution. They're trying to increase fuel economy. And to do that, if you're trying to do it with an internal combustion engine, then you got to, I mean, these engines and transmissions are incredibly complex. What they do with the valve trains, you know, the variable, you know, cam timing and intake, you know, the complexity of these things to make it that they can meet the mileage standards and the pollution standards are incredible. And there's the argument for EVs. Like these EVs are a lot less complicated. They have a lot fewer moving parts. And I think, you know, you're absolutely right, Jeff. I mean, these cars are so complicated. And if you just misstep a little bit on your maintenance, it's not just transmissions, it's engines, I mean, we see stuff. I mean, it's breaking my heart. I see guys that come into the shop with, you know, 4-year-old vehicle out of warranty, major engine issues because they never changed the cooling system's a big one. cooling system and the correct oil, and you'll still probably have problems.
Well, you know what they don't do is like you go and buy a new car and they'll spend like that hour with you programming the Bluetooth phone, you know, and showing you where the floor mats are, but they never actually sit there and say, you know, you're going to have to change the oil after, you know, X number of miles, and you should really keep an eye on this. There's never a service conversation, at least in my memory. Whenever I bought a new car, they never.
They're not interested in having you maintain the car. They want to sell you a new one every couple of years.
Yeah, but they also want that car back in good condition so that they can sell it. There's more money for them, right? They need a car that's in good shape to be certified pre-owned.
The salesman's only thinking about selling you the next car. He's not.
People are
worried about
calling
the
us up
trade-in.
all the time and asking, what kind of car should we buy? What kind of car should we buy? And we want to buy a Mercedes. We want to buy a BMW. You know, the German cars these days are over engineered, in my opinion. You know, you don't need 60 modules in a car to, you know, to run a vehicle. And it's just, it blows my mind that every transmission that we rebuild that's 15 or newer needs a new valve body. And the valve body is, you know, the brain of the transmission. Everyone needs a new one now.
Yeah.
And people want to know why it's $4,000 to do the transmission.
Yeah.
Wow. So maybe I should pay attention to those robocalls about the extended warranty.
Well, I don't know. Wait a minute.
Yes,
Not
that
that
is-
one. Not that one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
No, I just say, you know, but definitely pay attention to that owner's manual, you know, and maintenance guide, and listen, and all the more reason to bring your vehicle to a shop where it's not just like, and no disrespect to the quick lube places, but you want trained eyes on your car.
Absolutely.
And when you're doing these maintenances, you want to be doing them with people that know what they're doing and know what to, you know, observe potential problems down the road, because the repair bills we give people, it hurts me.
process.
You don't
these
want to,
days,
you don't want to
the-
be the guy that breaks that news.
Oh my gosh, it's
The
I
training
feel
It's
like
kind of like a
these
doctor
days,
coming back with a
yeah.
bad diagnosis.
yeah, or you come out of the emergency room and you go meet the family and you go, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, but
I felt that way in the past for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we have a 2016 S4 in the shop right now with 62,000 miles. It's got a dual clutch 7-speed automatic in it. Came in howling, and you know, the dealer, another one, Dave, by the way, the dealer told him $15,000
wow.
to fix the transmission
Whoa.
on this car. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much was it? How much are you
Well,
charging?
we're in the middle of it right now. We're around 3,500 in labor plus materials. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be around half, but at least it's
But
half.
that's
It's
still a
half.
lot of
Yes,
money
Yeah, no, it's
on a car with how many miles? How many miles?
66,000 on a 16.
That's pathetic.
It is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's just not right.
And that's where EVs, I predict that,
Go ahead.
you know,
Nostra David.
Professor Dave.
no, I mean, yeah, with the amazing Kresge. Yeah, no, I just think that this is where EVs are gonna start, you know, kind of proving themselves, and people are gonna go like, wait a minute, you know, those cars have so much less going on
Yeah,
them,
fewer
and they're,
moving parts.
I think in the long run they're gonna last. I think they will last longer. The maintenance on those things is
One
much
of our
less. So we'll
listeners
see.
on Facebook is talking about EVs, and she has some very good points. She says electric cars are a disaster economically and environmentally. You should get Eric Peters on, the writer, to discuss. And she listed a whole bunch of very good reasons why I think we should actually have Donna Cusano on the show to have a conversation with her about EVs, because she has the exact opposite viewpoints of what you're saying, David. And she sounds like a very intelligent human being.
All right, well, you know,
Smarter than me, obviously.
Are you saying that I'm not so
No, no,
intelligent?
no.
No,
Well, it's a debate.
Everybody's
continues
entitled
to
to their
rage.
opinion.
But thank you, Jeff, for your transmission tip as usual. We'll be
You're
back
welcome.
right after this with our friend Russ Rader and learn about marijuana and pot on the road.
New York Transmission Group is a team of automotive and transmission experts. Utilizing a combined 100 years of experience, our professionals from Reliable Transmissions and Lee Miles have merged to better serve the 5 boroughs and surrounding areas. With a new leader, a new location, and a new brand, New York Transmission Group is ready to offer updated, superior customer service paired with our established quality repairs. Visit us in College Point, Queens, or at nytransmissiongroup.com.
All right. And now's the time in the show where we we have the cold sobering stats that come from Russ, from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Yes, the people who do all the crashing of the crash test dummies and everything.
We want some crash videos.
Yeah, we want to see more crash videos. So here's Russ, and what's going on, Russ?
Well, we're going to continue talking about pollution. At least there's a lot more smoke in some states around the country that are legalizing marijuana, and it's not a laughing matter in some of these places. IIHS has been looking at crashes in the states. More than a third of U.S. states have now legalized recreational use and sales of marijuana. And so we wanted to see what's happening to crashes. So we went into the states and looked at this in several different ways. We looked at insurance claim data. We looked at police reports, police reported crashes. We looked at fatal crashes. And what we're seeing is that crashes are going up 4, 5, or 6%, depending on how you look at it, in the states that have legalized recreational pot. And that's after adjusting for all the things that can affect crash risk, like age and gender, things like the economy, because we know the economy has not been good, not only because of the recession a number of years ago, but also going into after the pandemic started. But we didn't measure this in 2020. We measured it in the years prior to that. And so, you know, one of the things that's difficult for police around the country is enforcing impaired driving laws with marijuana, because with blood alcohol content and alcohol, it's very easy to, we have a scientific basis for measuring blood alcohol content and what your crash risk is and whether or not you're impaired. But we don't have that with the active ingredient THC in marijuana. You can have THC in your bloodstream, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily impaired. It stays in the blood longer than alcohol, and it's not something that we can easily ascribe a THC level and the risk that you're going to crash. And one of the things that we're also seeing is that when you do some of these simulator studies where you put people in a simulated driving situation where they're not actually out on the road, but they're in a computerized car situation, and you dose them with marijuana, we don't see, there's mixed evidence on whether there is an increased risk that those people are going to crash, because they drive differently when they're than when they're dosed with alcohol. However, a lot of people are using alcohol and marijuana together out on the road, and that appears to be one of the things that's increasing the risk. So this is something that we're going to keep watching, because it's something that more and more states are looking to do.
Wow. Okay. So, so Russ, are you sampling some of this stuff yourself so that you can volunteer for the studies?
No, we didn't get to do that for this research project, unfortunately.
Okay.
Well, Russ, this marijuana is all to do with money. That's all it is.
Well, that's exactly the right point too, Jerry, because the states are looking at this not only, well, it's a lot of green. I mean, they're getting a lot of tax revenue from legalized marijuana. And you should see the increase in tax receipts in Colorado after they legalized marijuana. So it's the states are looking at this from a revenue standpoint, and they're not necessarily looking at it from a traffic safety standpoint.
Well, that's what you're there for.
After they get done paying for all the damage caused in those accidents, they'll wind up losing money.
Now, the
Yeah, it's one
irony
thing that
is
they need to consider for sure, and it's not always part of the debate.
the irony is, I wonder how many people are stoned while watching your crash videos.
Yeah.
Be like, dude, check that
We should
out.
try to measure
Look
that
at that bumper.
well, you know, but I think it's actually a much bigger issue. The medications that people are on, it's not just marijuana. I mean, you got all these people driving around. Like, I have,
do a live report on the radio show.
wow, we got
doing?
somebody's head on the show here. What's that going on?
That's
that Alex?
That's
that's
Alex in
Alex.
Saratoga.
He's
Okay.
in Saratoga, and we're looking at miscellaneous body parts of him.
Yes, of
Turn off the
Alex.
video.
Right now. Thankfully, he's outside, and I think he's clothed.
That's good.
But,
That's
you
good.
know,
Well,
But
that's good.
hey, but the point I was trying to make is that I think that there's like I have a back issue. You're right, and I take certain stuff for it to help. It's not opioids and all that, but it will impair your driving. You have to be mindful of that. You have all these people driving around. You know how they say you shouldn't. It's drowsy. You get drowsy. You shouldn't operate machinery. There's people all over the country that are taking this stuff all day long. They're out there driving, and I'm sure it impacts, no pun intended, their the crash statistic and marijuana. And none of this stuff is measured. You have people out there all the time that are just literally impaired, and there's no way to measure, no way to measure that. And Russ, I mean, what about all these medications that people take and they still drive to work every day and drive home and all of that?
it's all of that. And impairment is impairment. If you are impaired by whatever it is, whether it's drugs you're taking, or you've been drinking before getting behind the wheel, or even if you're overly tired, that is an impaired state. And that's something that a lot of those things are more difficult to measure. But as you said, there's a bigger issue out there of people driving around when they shouldn't be.
Well, then you factor in the texting. I think if you probably were going to rank these things, I would think distracted driving from texting is probably the number one issue, right? And then after that would be all the substance things, right?
Well, I think that if we were to look at the serious crashes, the fatal crashes, alcohol is still number one.
Really?
And we still have about a third of all serious crashes in which somebody gets killed involving alcohol, and that hasn't changed much.
A third?
Over the past 25 years. It went down when Mothers Against Drunk Driving and other activist groups started getting laws passed in the 1980s. But then it leveled off, and we haven't made much progress since in that area. So that's still an area that we need to double down, because we know what works to address that, and that's the most serious one.
Wow.
I mean, so if a police officer stops a car, and let's say there's an accident, and you open up the car door, and it's like, whoa, they get whoa, what the heck's
That
going
Fast
on?
Times at Ridgemont High,
and the
where
police officer
Spicoli
can't type anymore on his computer because he's so stoned out of his brain. There's no repercussion. There's no way for that person to be arrested, or
there is. So those people would be arrested. Part of it is that a police officer can arrest somebody if they're impaired. The problem is trying to, and that person can be prosecuted and convicted of being impaired while driving. The problem is going out there and trying to measure things that aren't as obvious. And that's where, getting into trying to do tests in the field for marijuana are difficult. But in every state has a law that says you can't drive impaired. So a police officer can catch you and arrest you for that.
Can I just add?
Yes.
Sorry, from our side of the pond, we have seasonal hay fever. Now, do you have the same in the States? I presume that you do. That the hay fever.
I have that.
Yeah,
Robert. Yes, I do.
Right. So there are some medications out there which, if you look on the back of the box, you know what I'm going to say. It says this should not cause drowsiness.
Right.
But make sure that if you get symptoms, do not drive. Now, how many people who are affected by this irritating
still driving?
They take the antihistamine, and in many people, it changes your perception. It makes you slightly sleepy, slightly more relaxed, little bit, not quite as sharp. There are these issues. These are medications which people take, and it's great that they are there. But as we've just heard from David, it's an excellent point. I think there should be a lot more research on these over-the-counter
Yes.
medications,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which
Dulling
affect
the
people in
senses
different,
and all
different
that,
ways.
I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely. It's a good point, Robert.
but it's a lot more fun to talk about potheads. But and it is a problem, and it is
And
it is a
potholes.
problem. It is a problem. It blows my mind how many I had a customer in the shop the other day. In fact, yesterday I'm test driving this Escalade. I got in the car. It's like, what the heck? I mean, I could barely see straight.
You got a
and that,
contact tie from test driving a car?
I don't know, but and I said, and this guy, and there's these, ashtrays all over the car. The whole, it's a pot haven, and I'm thinking to myself, and the customer hadn't been in the car for 3 days. We had a lot of work to it, and it still was reeking. I was saying, what
He
the hell
stashed
goes
something
on
in there,
this?
Dave. He had to have stashed something.
No,
in
no,
there.
But
like,
look on the
what's
bright side. Ashtrays are going to make a comeback.
It's true. It's
Ashtrays
just
and lighters.
It's amazing to me how many people think that they can drive and smoke this stuff.
Well,
I-
people,
Yeah.
in some ways, it's the technology has made it easier to drive a car. I mean, even if you look at a manual transmission versus an automatic, power steering versus not power steering. I mean, the more connected you are, like I love driving my manual, just rack and pinions, but you have to pay attention. And when you're driving an automatic transmission with everything
Automatic.
automatic,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to not, I don't want to say not pay attention, but you're not as connected. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Great point.
and
Great
a
point.
lot of people also, with all the new technology, with the safety, lane departure, braking and all
Yeah.
that, everybody relies on that. So, like a very
Too
high
much.
percentage.
Too much.
Yeah, they need
Yeah.
to still pay attention and use common sense.
Yeah, well, this sounds like a really good intro for our friend Robert Erskine's segment
Yeah.
on
I'm champing at the bit, as we say here in England.
advanced driving.
An
So
old
I
Robert,
thought it was
fashioned
chomping.
phrase.
I thought it was
In the-
chomping, Robert. It's champing over there?
Champing, chewing.
he's
Thank
in
God I'm not a
addition-
horse, because
in
the
addition
poor
to
horse
being
has
an
to have the
automotive-
bit in its mouth. So it's-
Ruminating. You're ruminating.
Ruminating.
In
Ruminating.
addition
Yeah,
to
well,
being an automotive journalist and a world famous sculptor, Robert
not
Erskine,
well. Yeah,
one
day.
well,
After
hey.
my beard has got even longer and whiter.
Yeah. So
Then-
Robert
then
is
I
an
might.
advanced driving instructor, and here is his tip of the week.
Well, advanced driving safety tip of the week. We've just been listening to Russ Rader talking about taking drugs. Dare we even mention this? I can tell you here in jolly old Britain, you're absolutely not allowed to even have any of that kind of stuff, even in your vehicle. If a policeman stops you, he will start checking you out, and you will be in a kind of a trouble. But the tip of the week, it's being aware. So it may seem daft, but how often do you actually see road signs or even remember them as you're driving down the road? Whenever I take people out and I start their training to do the advanced driving test, one of the things that we do on the drive is we wait for the new individual student who's gone for his little trial drive to go past some road signs, and then we gently ask them when we come to a stop or at appropriate time, what were the 2 or 3 road signs that we just went past? And you'll be surprised that about 70% on average of people who are out for their first ride do not pay any attention to any of the road signs at all. The ones that they tend to look at are the stop signs and the traffic lights. So here is a very basic tip. Road signs are important because they usually are placed in areas where information that relates to what we call hazards are there. And they're there to give you prior warning so that you can plan and drive safely. So the next time you're out, actually make a point of looking for these road signs. As I said, they highlight potential hazards, and they can be things such as approaching bends, you're outside a school or coming up to a school, pedestrian crossings, junctions, T-junctions that we call them here in England. You'll be amazed how many signs are actually out there. yes, there is a problem that in some parts of Europe they put too many signs up, but just practice looking for those signs which usually have a red border around the outside. I don't know if you have that in the States, but here in England, if there's a real hazard, the road sign has a red border around it. That's there to use and to learn and to put into action.
Robert,
So
that
basically,
70%,
look.
that 70% failure rate is without marijuana. I wonder what it is with marijuana.
Well, yeah, you know, it is a real issue, and keeping alert is about keeping aware of what's going on around you. So another little tip, which I'll just tag on, is keep checking your mirrors, your rear view mirrors, near side, offside, as I call them, looking into the frontal zone in front of you, not just the end of your hood. Keep scanning around. It'll keep you alert, stop you going to sleep, and you'll be aware of the changing hazards, and you'll be able to adjust and take action.
Well,
Check
thank
your
you
mirrors so
much.
you can see what you ran over that you weren't paying attention to.
Thank you so much for that tip,
pleasure.
Robert. As always, it's amazing. We're going to try to check in with Alex, who's up in Saratoga, in just a minute.
A special technical information message from D&J Automotive, located at 3830 Merrick Road in Seaford, Long Island. Many years ago, before electronic controls, there were engine analyzers, a console cabinet filled with vacuum and pressure gauges, voltometers, an ammeter, an oscilloscope, and maybe even an exhaust gas analyzer. These old-fashioned gauges and meters were important diagnostic tools. That was yesterday. Today, that trouble tree has grown into whole volumes of diagnostics, and you need a facility that has all of the up-to-date equipment. The most effective diagnostics are performed by technicians who understand your car. The tools have become more complex, and the time that is invested in learning how to use these tools and understanding the data it presents is an important measure of the technician's actual capabilities. If you have diagnostic or mechanical questions about your car and live in the Seaford, Long Island area, please call Don or Jerry at 516-781-7240. That's 516-781-7240.
All right, welcome back to Auto Lab. Let's see if we can check in with our show historian, Alex Sutanis, who's up in Saratoga. Alex, are you there? I guess maybe not.
Oh, Alex,
I see him there.
are you? Alex, where are you? Come on. We saw your head. We saw your neck.
We saw body parts from you, pal. Where are you?
Yeah.
All right.
Hello. I think he's texting. He says
he's texting you?
He's texting me. He just says, he's having some technical troubles up there, so he doesn't want to mess up. So he's saying maybe it's not a good thing to do it. We're gonna miss him then. We're gonna miss him.
Can we
He's
ask
up-
Alex why we keep seeing his right ear?
I think that's the technical issue he's trying to resolve. But yeah, it's a shame because there's a great show going on up there. Mike, you know where he is. He's up at the AACA. It's a show up in Saratoga, I think. No?
Yes, he's up there working.
Is he judging?
I think he's judging, or he's helping out with the judging.
Yeah, this is going to be a busy season for him. We definitely got to get our mobile video crew in shape because Alex is going to be going to a lot of great shows throughout the whole season, right?
I think we'll have to give him a little lesson in how to work the iPhone camera and unmute button.
Absolutely.
But we can do that. So while we're waiting to see if Alex will join, why don't we go and check in with our friend Robert Sinclair from AAA, who will help us stay on the road. How you doing, Robert?
I'm well. How are you?
We're doing good. We're talking weed. We're talking the cars. Some of us may be sampling some of it. I don't know.
Not while we're driving.
Yes. Don't do it and drive. That's something we've been recommending for a long time. And the IIHS study was interesting because it noted that under the influence of weed, drivers actually improve in certain behaviors. They
Don't
drive
say
more
that,
slowly.
Robert. Really?
Well,
Wait, in
that's what
some
it
areas
said.
improved. Russ didn't talk
No.
about that.
You got to read the study. It's very, very interesting.
What ways did they improve?
They drove more slowly, and they left a bigger cushion between their vehicle and other vehicles. Now, I'm not saying that to recommend the use of such inebriants and then driving, but it was an interesting kind of sidelight to the study. But in all the states where it has been legalized, there's been an increase in the number of those who are unfortunately injured and killed with that drug in their system. So and I'm talking about that same sort of thing today. And looking back at 2020, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration first week of June issued their preliminary data on the number of those killed last year. And just it's stunning to see. They think that 38,680 people were killed in road crashes in 2020. And that is a 7.2% increase and the most since 2007. And that happened in spite of the fact that the number of miles driven in the country was down 13.2% because of the lockdowns associated with the pandemic. Yeah. Now you might remember, last year we talked about our speed camera study, the analysis of the number of violations given out speed cameras in New York City from when the schools were locked down, when the schools were closed, which is March 12th, until the end of June. And the number of tickets went up overall by more than 200%. And at some locations, notably the speed camera at West Street and Leroy Street, the number of tickets given out there went up by more than 700% per day. Now, why did this happen? Nationwide, we saw the number of those killed went up, the number of speed camera violations went up, and it had to do with the fact that there were so few people on the road. Fewer people on the road meant that those that were on the road had open road and they were speeding as a result.
Right.
And numerous studies have shown that as speed increases, when you crash, the level of the energy in the crash and the injuries and the fatalities go up. So that's exactly what was happening. The main responsible behaviors were speeding, impaired driving, and no seatbelts. And in fact, crashes were highest. We saw the highest increase on urban interstates, can you say New York, Long Island, New Jersey, where they went up by 15%.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So 15%, and there are fewer cars on the road.
And there were fewer cars on the road.
Well, that's why, right? I mean, they were speeding. I mean, we've talked about it before, but the guys who did the cannonball at the height of COVID went New York to LA or New York to California. I think it's just south of LA is where it ends in 26 hours.
Yeah, no traffic.
With an average speed of 100 and something. I think the average speed was like 103. Average.
Yeah. You know, at AAA, we talked about traffic before, and people lament traffic. Well, we used to talk about it in a positive way because when we saw the Great Recession begin in 2008, traffic went down, and it was a measure of the economy. When there's a lot of traffic, the economy is good. People have jobs, they're going to work, there's construction vehicles. And now we have to say that when there's traffic, also there's improved safety because you can't go as fast and crash and kill and injure yourself. So there were two bright spots, two declines last year.
I want to hear the bright side.
Bright sides.
Cheer us up.
Crashes involving large trucks were down 2%.
2%.
2%. And
that's
crashes
statistically not significant, though, is it?
Well, it is if you were one of them, I think.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Robert.
Good answer. Yes.
If crashes on trucks were down, do you think that's because there were fewer cars to get in their way?
Yeah. And we all know if a car crashes with a truck, you know, it's like a flyweight going against a heavyweight.
Yeah, we know who wins that one.
Exactly. The truck is going to win. So again, that improves safety.
So what's the other bright news?
those over 65 crashes involving those over 65 were down 9%.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
Well, senior, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
We're
look at the
smoking less weed.
statistics.
We're smoking
I
less
think
weed.
that might definitely be it. That's
Yeah.
part of it.
No, the
But-
thing is, Robert, when we get there, we get there. Who cares?
I know I was in my youth, I was one of the fastest drivers, and now I just don't care. I'm in a slow lane and people are blowing the horn at me because I'm driving too slowly. And my friends who knew me all those years ago in my teens or 20 are amazed. I'm just not in a hurry anymore. I guess, that's part of age.
The low numbers of older people that are crashing, it has to be because they were all locked up in the house.
Yeah, they're off the
maybe
road.
that too.
Well, and we've seen studies that show that senior drivers tend to be more careful. They know their limitations. They don't drink and drive. They do wear their seat belts. If they have problems with their eyesight driving at night, they don't drive at night. And some have problems discerning the speed. If you're making a left turn across oncoming traffic, you have to be able to discern the speed of the oncoming traffic. And that becomes more of a problem when you're a senior. And seniors have learned that 3 right turns equal a left turn. And so they will do that and not have to drive across traffic. So there's a lot of
Sounds like
self-discipline.
Jersey.
Yeah. Drug handles.
I would say 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do.
3 rights make a left.
That's a good one.
3 rights make a left. Yeah. So the National Safety Council came out with some numbers as well. They're a little bit different. In fact, they're vastly different from what NHTSA came out with. But they did come out with some recommendations, and it has to do with lowering the BAL, blood alcohol content, at which one would be considered impaired. It's 0.08 in many states. They want it lowered to 0.05. Many states are
I think
raising.
Utah is.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Many states, and I think Utah is one of them, are raising speed limits. They're recommending against that, particularly with our infrastructure the way it is, that a lot of roads are functionally obsolete. They're handling more traffic than they were designed to. And especially on those roads, you don't need to be raising speed limits. And that when it's considered, when a state is considering raising a speed limit, they urge engineering studies should be done to see whether or not it would be warranted, if it would be safe. Also, they say there should be ignition interlocks for those who have been convicted of drunk driving, so they cannot engage in said behavior again. I read something this week. It said the average person who is busted for driving drunk has probably done it 8 or 9 times beforehand.
Right.
So there's just this, that's part of the 3 reasons: impaired driving, not wearing the seatbelt, and speeding. So can we not do those things, people, and our roads will be safer?
Can I just add in something, Robert,
Yes,
very
Robert.
quickly?
Yes.
Here in quaint little Britain, we have something which are called average speed cameras. I don't know if you have that on the States. So you're going along the freeway. There's, for whatever reason, it's usually roadworks, or the nature of the road is such that there's a lot of traffic and the road is slightly narrower, or the lanes are not as wide at a particular place, which we have in England sometimes. Anyway, they put up an average speed camera and they warn you about a mile before you come into the zone. On the side of the road, painted yellow on a gantry, are the speed cameras, which measure you over a given distance. The interesting thing there is that there's about a 70–80% reduction in impacts, accidents, and also fines being given out for excessive speeding. And they seem to work much better than just the speed camera that flashes as you go past it because you haven't kept to the speed limit.
We've only got the
You have those
gotcha
in the
cameras.
States.
Yeah. So when you say
They have
average
gotcha
speed
cameras.
camera, you mean the camera it'll flag you if you're driving faster than what the prevailing rate of
It
speed
won't-
for traffic is?
Yeah. It
okay.
measures you at a given speed. So as you come into the zone, it says the speed limit is, say, 60 miles an hour. So everybody slows down to the 60 because they know that if they go over that speed, when they reach the end of the zone,
they're going to take this second picture. So how'd you get here in such a short period of time, right?
They
it's
measure
very,
that.
very
Makes a lot of
interesting.
sense.
It's very, and a lot of people like these better than these little Gatso cameras, as we call it. The Gatso was named after a famous European racing driver who himself invented the strobe speed camera, which flashes you.
It kind of make, I don't know, over there you have, I mean, here we have, what we call our Easy Pass in the Northeast. And, I was always thinking, your Easy Pass picks you up when you get onto, let's say, the Garden State Parkway, and you get down to Atlantic City, and it catches you when you come off. Well, it can calculate your speed. It's like, how did you just drive? It was whatever it's supposed to be, a 4-hour trip. How'd you do it in 3.2 hours? Like, must have surpassed the speed.
Judge, I was drafting behind the trailer.
We have heard from members who have Easy Passes, and we have all these automatic gantries now that will read your pass and calculate the toll. But many members have written us and said that their Easy Passes were suspended because they were speeding through the toll area. It's not only capturing the toll information, it's capturing how fast you're going. Yep. So they're watching you. But don't get me started about Easy Pass, because back in 2017, we did a big study of Easy Passes, and we found that many of they're overcharging. They're charging you the cash rate when if you don't have your Easy Pass. There's 17 different agencies that issue Easy Passes, and many of them do not give you the cash discount if you do not get your Easy Pass through their issuing authority.
So we have to check the bill.
Oh yeah.
And you know what their recommendation was? What? Well, if you want to get the discount, just get the Easy Pass from us. So they expect you to have 17 different Easy Passes.
Well,
in order to get the discount.
Not so easy.
Not so easy.
Imagine trying to go through your glove compartment looking for the one for the right authority. That
or you have a string of Easy Passes along the front of your windshield.
Well, then they would all get billed.
Yeah,
it's another new technology that's taking over and eliminating jobs.
Well, but they don't even need it anymore because they can read your license plate. The toll, what cashless tolls.
But that's the cash rate.
Right,
no
but if they
discount.
have the technology to read your license plate, they could tell that you're connected to Easy Pass or whatever it is.
But getting back to the issue at hand, I think, Robert, that idea in England, I mean, it's terrible because it's going to take me longer to get everywhere. But if they did a system like that here, I think it would definitely, people would just be a little bit more mindful of, hey, it's going to be very obvious. But what's that, Ian?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, because it's not about how fast you hit as a peak, it's about how fast you go in general.
Right.
Because
you're expecting our government officials to think, logically. I mean, that itself to me is a whole other conversation.
Listen, there are times when you really gotta pass that guy at 80 miles an hour. You shouldn't get a
but
ticket.
that's a burst.
That's a safe.
That's just a burst, and it's not going to be. But think about the lengths that they have gone to in our government to catch speeders. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but mostly it's down south. They used to use airplanes. They would paint lines on the road. There would be a white line on the road, and an airplane or a helicopter, whatever, would track and time you from crossing that white line to the next white line to determine if you're speeding.
They use them here on the thruway all the time.
Yeah, down.
I don't know about today, but years ago I know they used them a lot.
On Long Island, down by Jones Beach, you have Ocean Parkway. They have lines painted there also.
Oh, really? And did you, Joanna?
No, I haven't.
You never got caught? No.
Nah,
How do you know? Oh, Jerry got caught. How many times, Jerry, you got caught?
Hold on a second. Go ahead, Jerry.
It's very tempting in Jones Beach. It's got a 4-lane highway, And when you're going into the beach, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's a scare, you feel like you can get out and push the car faster than that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's wide
If
open.
they're out there,
Yeah.
they're
And
waiting.
it's empty.
On the West Side Highway, or I guess technically the Henry Hudson, just before you reach the toll leaving Manhattan, the speed limit drops down to 30. And you know how many people get busted there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's clearly a speed trap. I mean, there's no reason.
I mean, all of the
that that would be
cameras,
30 there.
all of the cameras that they've got out there now are all privately owned by private companies, and they're splitting these tickets with in Nassau County now. By the way, if you get caught with one of these cameras going through a red light, it's $150. It was $50 like 18 months ago. It's $150.
But
And
you
they're
have
splitting.
all this. It's not just the fine itself is not too bad, but
Yeah, it's the fees.
The point-
surcharges
or
that
the
they attach to
surcharges.
it is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well,
You can't-
speed is also related to red light cameras, because one of the problems we've had with red light cameras is the amber light timing. Because in some districts where they put in red light cameras, we saw a trade-off. They were trying to prevent the T-bone crashes, which are very dangerous, but they started getting more rear end crashes because the light would go yellow and people would
Stop.
nail the brakes
Right.
and they'd get hit in the back.
Yeah.
So the amber light time, we feel, should be set according to whatever the prevailing rate of speed is on a particular
Sure.
roadway.
No, absolutely.
Right?
It should.
Yeah.
Now, on
Great
Long
point.
Island, they do that. The amber lights are much, much longer, sometimes as long as 4.5, 5 seconds. But in New York City, they're all roughly 2.3, 2.2 seconds.
I like the
And-
countdowns. You see in the city, you see all those countdowns. It says 10, 9,
on
8.
For the
yeah.
pedestrians.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that
you
helps.
watch those and you can tell.
Well, that people
that
would
helps.
definitely speed up on that. But I think I think that, but it just why aren't there signs, just before you enter an intersection that just says stop on yellow? So when they teach you how to drive, they like there's the go no go. If I'm whatever X distance from the light and it turns yellow, I'm going to stop. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to make that call. Why there should be like like based on the prevailing speed, there should be a little sign that says stop on stop if you cross. If it turns yellow before you hit this sign, you stop.
Again, we're looking for logic, Ian.
In Brooklyn, if you stop on red, 3 cars blow past you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a Brooklyn thing, right?
Yeah, well,
I learned when I first started driving in Brooklyn, when I went to school in Brooklyn, I started driving out in Nassau County and I would stop on the yellow, right? Get to Brooklyn, stop on the red, and 3 cars go past you.
is that why you moved to Queens?
I graduated.
Listen, all of it, we joke about it, but the whole thing about, people slowing down and getting this right. And Jeff, I hear you, like the government, you leave it up to some of these government officials that are really where governments are incentivized to punish people.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to get people to slow down. It's not a bad, speed, what was it, Robert? Speed and lack of a seatbelt,
Seatbelts and impairment.
and impairment. Those are the 3 things, and we
Top
got to
3.
work on them. I like that as much as or maybe I should careful what I wish for. I like that average speed thing. I think that's
that's
like a
pretty good
no-brainer.
idea.
Well,
Yeah.
here is another little bit of updated news I can tell you about speed. A lot of areas in central London are now implementing 20-mile-an-hour speed.
Dang.
So you think about trying to keep to 20
That's
along a
brutal.
straight road.
It's 25 in all the towns on Long Island now.
I
25
know.
miles an hour.
Forget congestion pricing. What you got to do is you have to push your car through certain areas. That'll really reduce the amount of people that bring their cars into certain areas.
Yeah.
Get out and haul. I don't know.
It's amazing.
Maybe it'll work.
Well, I got to tell you, this has been an amazing show today. It's been really educational. We've learned a lot about how they check speed in England and what happens when you smoke weed on the road here in the States. And think about everything we covered today. And
Service your cooling system.
Yes.
Right, servicing your cooling system, and of course, Joe Worm.
Oh,
what a
man,
fantastic guest! Thank you, Joe, for your
Thank you
service.
so much, Joe.
and for giving us a glimpse into what it really takes to keep the Army running. I mean,
What it takes to fit 40 hours into 24 hours is what I learned.
and that too.
And the true beauty of the Nomad. I mean, my gosh,
Yeah,
that's
gorgeous.
absolutely spectacular.
So you can go back and re-listen and watch our show, and you can see more pictures of Joe's Nomad. And Joe, is there a website or anything that you maintain, or you just kind of do your own thing?
Do my own thing. I haven't thought about no website yet. I got a few more cars I think I need to get before I go in there. But I get a lot of people stopping by to see the little, I call my little stack of cars and get ideas to what they can do with theirs and asking, hey, can you work on mine? But no, I haven't gotten a website yet. My wife is asking me to.
You should
Well,
do
maybe
it.
a Facebook page or something.
Yeah,
or
you should do it, Joe.
Instagram. Why not just an Instagram?
Yeah,
Good idea.
That would be a fun, because I would definitely subscribe to your Instagram.
Those
So let's go
platforms
over-
are much easier for sure. Absolutely.
Jeff, how can people find you at the New York Transmission Group?
You could find us at nytransmissiongroup.com. We're in College Point at 13204 11th Avenue, right underneath the Whitestone Bridge. You can catch me trolling every morning over there.
Jerry and Johanna, where can people find you guys?
I'm located in Seaford, New York, 3830 Merrick Road.
And your phone's ringing already.
Look at you.
Yep. 516-781-7240.
Okay, that sounds good. And David, tell us about Urban Classics.
Yes, Urban Classics. We fix anything. We are serving the public in all over the New York City area, but we're located in Bedford, Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and you can reach us by seeing our website, urbanclassicsautorepair.com. Make an appointment, or just give us a call if you have any. Or reach out to us via email if you have any car questions.
Awesome. And Robert Erskine, how do people learn more about what you're doing these days?
You could check me out on my website, www.roberterskine.com. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me on my email at roberterskine.com. And you can ask me any questions about European cars, design, and stuff like that.
Sculpture, too.
And sculpture, of course.
And last but not least, Mike, how can people reach you?
You can reach me right here. I'm at the Automat Restorations Car Show in Hicksville. We're going to be here till 2:00. I'm here with the Gold Shield Mobile Unit. We're recruiting members, trying to save the lives of veterans.
All right. Well, that's an incredibly worthy cause. So thank you, everybody, for another great.
And
Auto
how do
Lab.
we find you, Ian?
Oh, me, right? So my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ian Carr. That's IANKARR. Restoring that Porsche 914 in my home garage, and I'm almost at fire in the hole, guys. The engine went back into the car.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and maybe this weekend or early this upcoming week.
Looks like a piece of art, guys. It looks
Do you
amazing.
need me to come hold the fire extinguisher?
I'm definitely going to have the fire extinguisher out for sure. So we'll see what happens, and maybe I'll have a nice video clip to share with you guys next week.
There you go.
Sounds
So
great.
We'll see. So thanks, everybody. Please like this page on Facebook and put any questions you have in the chat, and we'll get to them next week.
And
on the
go to
Auto
the
Lab.
goldshield.us to save veterans.
Exactly. Take care, everybody.